Hi, this is SimsBerrry and this is my Machinima guide. So this is part 2, and in this part I'll talk a bit about set design. So some tips and tricks, key mistakes to avoid, set design versus just making a normal house in The Sims, and yeah, I think that's about it. So I'll start off with the biggest mistakes, because I think if you can do this, you're already good. And the biggest mistake that you can do is that you don't have a set. It happens so often with people who make their first machinimas where they don't have a set. I think I did that too with the first machinimas that aren't online anymore, but it happens. You make a room and you don't do anything to it. Maybe you place some chairs, a bed, you know, you're making a bedroom. You'll place a bed, you'll place a bedside table, you'll put in a lamp, and that's it. And you're like, hey, I'm done, this is my set. And you don't paint the wallpapers. Please paint the wallpapers. It doesn't matter if your sim is the most beautiful sim in the world. If they're standing in a room where there's the basic wallpaper, you know, the one, the white one with little screws in, it's gonna ruin their immersion. To me, that's like my biggest pet peeve when it comes to machinima. Like overall, there's tons of other things that like really irk me, but this thing is the most annoying because it's so easy to fix. You just have to put in a wallpaper. You can put in the blank white wallpaper. Just any wallpaper will do. Literally anything will be better than the screws wallpaper. Now, I know there's times where the screws wallpaper will work. For example, if your characters are designing their room and they just put down their wallpapers and the walls are bare, and that's okay, you can use the blank wallpaper there. Just, if it doesn't make sense for it to be like that, don't do it. Don't. Okay? I'm sorry. Yeah, I think this was my biggest mistake. This is the biggest mistake. So now we can move on to set design versus a normal house build. Is there a difference? In my opinion, there is. In a way that set design is a lot more forgiving. It's a lot better for lazy people. Because if you're working on an interior set, you just need that room. Like in this video, I just needed the bedroom. I didn't need anything else. So I just put in a square box and filled it in, and inside everything is done. Well, only the walls that you'll be able to see in the machinima. And outside, I only put a tree where I know you'll be able to see it, but everything else is bare. Everything else has the blank walls. So when you're building a set, especially when it's for a small machinima where you'll only need the set once and that's it, think about the angles that you'll be using. For me, I knew that I needed to decorate the hell out of the desk because I wanted to recreate that iconic Lofi girl frame picture where she's sitting at her desk and writing down and the cat is behind her. So I knew how the camera will be positioned and what you'll be able to see. So I made sure to put a lot of decoration over there. I also knew that I wanted a shot of the bed, so I made sure that there's something interesting to look there. But the other, the wall that's behind me, I didn't do basically anything to it. Later on, I put a TV over there just because it helps with orientation of other objects. So, you know, even though you can't see a TV necessarily, you'll be able to see the sofa. So sometimes, even though you won't be able to see them, it's still good to place those key items because it'll be easier to decorate the rest of the room. I make these cube interior buildings for most of my projects when it comes to interiors, because I don't show the exteriors a lot. Part of it is because I'm too lazy to build an exterior, so I just, you know, kind of go around it. For my project, the Canopse effect, most of the sets are boxes. So all of the laboratories, they're boxes on separate lots. And I only do full builds for sets where I know I'll need all of the rooms. So when I made the shack where the characters spent the first 10 or so episodes, I knew I needed all of the rooms decorated from all angles because I'll be using that. But when it comes to sets that I know I'll only use 1 or 2 times, I only decorate the angles that I know I'll show. So another key thing when it comes to building is aesthetic. I think this is also applicable to just normal builds, but here it's even more important because I think it's more unified and more specific. So for example, for this specific build, I wanted to go for the aesthetic of this Lofi video. So I really wanted to replicate the Lofi girl, the music videos, the studying at 2 AM videos in Sims. So I did that. I put on the music in the background, so I got in the mood, I pulled up a picture, and I started building. Those were just inspirations. I wasn't trying to super like replicate every single detail that I saw, but I just wanted to get that aesthetic. And I think it's really good to have an aesthetic in mind when it comes to building a set, and to match that aesthetic to the vibe of your series. So if you want something, you know, you wouldn't put this vibey sort of room in a horror movie, probably, because the colors wouldn't match. For this room, I knew I wanted to use some greens, mostly browns, earthy sort of colors, some oranges, maybe yellows, you know, those warm sort of tones. So if you play The Sims, you probably know about the gallery. Now, I think the gallery is both a really good thing for machinima directors and also kinda a bad thing. Why is it bad? Because I think when you're making a set, it needs to reflect your series and the machinima. Because when it comes to small machinimas, you only have like a minute to show your story. So it's also great to show your story through your set design, you know, to get to know the characters more. And same thing is when it comes to bigger projects. I think in this case it's even more important for the rooms to reflect the characters. The biggest thing is bedrooms. I think when it comes to bedrooms, you almost shouldn't use gallery builds, or you should at least put your own twist on them, edit them a bit, because the person that's building that room, it's building it for a generic, I don't know, teenager. It's not for your character in particular. And in my opinion, when you look at a room, it reflects the person that lives in that room. You know, when you see your own bedroom, you're like, yeah, this is my room, because it has things that connect you to that room. You know, maybe you have photos of your friends, maybe you have, you know, a bunch of bowls that you left because you were studying so much. You have your plants, maybe they're dead because you're bad at gardening. You know, all those little details that make you you. And the same goes to your characters. I think, especially the bedrooms, I'll say that again, should reflect your character. If you did the thing that I said in the previous video with the whole character planning, answering the questions, you should know your character a bit, so you should know what they want in their room. If your character hates yellow, they probably wouldn't have yellow walls, or they would have yellow walls and have them covered with posters because, hey, they don't want to look at that ugly wall. Just little sort of details that make the rooms more personable. When it comes to exteriors, I don't know if that's my opinion just because I don't like making exteriors, but then it's usually good to use the gallery for builds. I don't think that's a problem because most of the times exteriors are sort of generic. You don't really change them that much depending on your character. Of course, I'd still recommend you to add your own little spin on it, but for exteriors, I think gallery is great. Especially when it comes to times where you'll only show their exterior for like 2 seconds and then you'll never need it again, and you'll only film, for example, the character's bedroom, or you just need the exterior, you won't even go inside the set. Those times, I think gallery is so great and you should use it because we're lazy. We don't have a gazillion years for our machinima. We're already losing so much time with everything else. We don't need to build a super detailed set for a 2-second shot. I know I've only used gallery builds about 3 times, and those were 2 castles and a church, because those have a lot of little details and they're just not something that I personally build often, so I thought it would look better if someone else made it, and I think it turned out great. So, yay! Gallery is great, just not for everything. I'm not sure if I said this already, maybe I did, but said it a bit differently, but a thing you should always keep in mind is the genre of your series and the sort of setting. Maybe you like making modern builds, but your machinima is set in a sort of fantasy town. Then you probably will need to switch it up a bit and make more fantasy builds. Unless, you know, you did the world building and you have some sort of Winx Club world where magic is super advanced. But, you know, if you're making a sci-fi series, which, you know, I'm making, I can't really build just basic homes. Even though I like building basic homes, you know, I had so much fun building this set because it's what I want, it's what I enjoy. But for that series, I know that I need to either do, you know, super futuristic stuff, a lot of whites, a lot of just modern minimalistic stuff. Or for the post-apocalyptic setting, I know I need to do houses that look run down, that have some broken items in there, you know, are sort of overgrown, and I really hate building those. I'm so sick of building those, but I can't just change it in the middle because I need to follow that vibe, that aesthetic that I decided to go with in the beginning. Because if I would change it, it would break the immersion. Okay, so now I'm gonna talk a bit about my process, how I go about building a set. If you're a builder, you probably do this in a different order, maybe the same, but if you're not, you know, maybe you'll find something that you like about my process. So I usually start by adding those key elements, so, you know, desks, beds, bookshelves, those big bulky items that I sort of already envision where they'll be because I know which angles I use, so I know where I should put them. And then I go through all the like plants and I just scroll down and start putting everything in, everything that I want to use, every single plant that I want to use, and then I go through the decorations and the paintings and I do the same and the same and the same. So I end up with a room that's fully decked out with random clutter, and I love that. I really love adding a bunch of clutter because I think it adds a lot of character, which is what I want. I want the rooms to look real, especially bedrooms. I know I'm talking a lot about bedrooms, but I just feel like almost every series has a bedroom scene. I think same can be said about any sort of homey scene where you need to make rooms that feel real, that feel lived in. So add clutter, add, you know, random piles of laundry, random trash cans, trash, magazines, phones, phone chargers, laptops, posters, pictures, you know, all the sort of crap that you find in your room. Mugs, dirty dishes. You know, just make the room feel like someone actually lives there. So unlike normal Sims building where rooms need to be functional, we don't care about that when it comes to Machinimas. There can be a chair placed somewhere where your sim will never be able to reach it. There can be rooms with doors that just don't function, you know? For example, this room, my sim could never get into it, but you know, that's fine. We could just teleport her in this room. We don't have to make this set actually playable. We just need to look realistic. Not realistic for the Sims, realistic for us. Hey, so the video was already supposed to end, but I found this clip, which for some reason I recorded separately, and I have a few other things to say. So ceilings and lighting. If you played The Sims 4 before and you're kind of familiar with building, you are probably aware that you can change the ceiling colors, which can be really annoying, but you actually can't do that. There are mods for it. They are default replacements, so they replace all the ceilings, and they're kind of neat. So before you film in a room where you know you'll need, I don't know, wood ceiling or stone ceiling, you just go in your folder, find the ceiling replacement, put it in your game, and voila, you'll have a different ceiling. For this machinima, I used a white ceiling replacement, which is similar to the one that we have right now, but I don't know, it just adds a bit of flair to it. It looks a bit better than the default one, so. But I mostly use it for wooden ceilings because when I'm building a shack, I'm not gonna have concrete ceilings, I'm gonna have the planks, and I can do that with this mod, so yay! And the other thing is lighting. So when I was building the set, I used those generic little lights that produce a lot of lighting, but that's not what we are looking for exactly. We want lighting that looks realistic. Lighting in Sims 4 is kind of neat, I think. Especially when, you know, you can dim the lights, change the temperature of them. So I would suggest you play around a bit with it. Maybe see how it looks with your reshade if you use it, just so it's not too drastic or the light is not strong enough. I think candles are super duper neat, so if you use them, please don't use the big lights or dim them a lot because it's not gonna give the same effect. I know for night scenes, if I want them to be dramatic, I sometimes only use candle lighting. Here's a few examples, hopefully that I'll put in. But yeah, lighting is really neat, so make use of it. Okay, intermission is over. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's my guide of set building. I hope you learned something new. I hope I wasn't terrible at explaining my process. And yeah, I'll see you in the next part where we'll actually be doing the filming, which is probably what you're most excited about. Bye bye!